So now that we got this Nintendo Zapper light gun disassembled, let me show you what it is I want to do with it. I want to make it into a laser gun, basically a really big laser pointer. And the way I plan to do that is using one of these little inexpensive laser diodes. You can pick these up off Amazon and places like that real cheap. They're very small, very simple. Basically all you have to do is just feed them 5 volts and you get a laser coming out of it. These are a nice bright red dot laser. Now of course I don't need the original light sensor anymore, so I'm going to pull that out. I think I'll just snip that off right there. I don't necessarily need this weight, but unless I put something else here, I may as well leave it. And in fact, if I want this even heavier than what it was, I could replace it with a lead weight instead of this steel weight. But the other thing is I got to fit a battery in here. Now I already have around a couple of 18650 batteries. These are very popular batteries. Usually they're like around 2000 milliamps or so. They're rechargeable lithium. They're great batteries. It might be just a little on the large side for a project like this, but at the same time, hey, I already got it, so I'd like to use it. And then I also had another idea of why I might want to use that, which I'll share in a couple of minutes here. Now, I do need a battery holder for that, which I have a single 18650 battery holder here, but you know, that makes this whole thing even bulkier. It would have been a tight squeeze, and with that, meh, not so good. Fortunately, I have another cell here that already came with some leads pre-soldered on there, and I can't put it down here. That's just not really going to be a good spot because we've got those screw holes that hold the whole thing together, and you know, end of it's going to bump into this switch area, and I want to keep all of this. But I think I might be able to squeeze it in here if I use my Dremel tool to take out these couple little parts that were holding the sensor. And I think also the little part that screw goes into right there. Now I'm gonna double check that with some measuring tools before I start cutting this up, but cross my fingers, I think that's gonna work. So if you've got a rechargeable lithium battery, you're gonna want a way to charge it. Fortunately, there's a lot of little off-the-shelf parts already available. Found I had one of these kicking around. This is just a little charging board for an 18650. It's got a little micro USB connection on there, and then it's got connections over here that you solder the battery to, so that'll charge it up. And then I thought, well, heck, if I got an 18650 in here, what if I also had a USB board? So it'll take the source from that 3.6, 3.7 volt lithium battery, it'll boost the power up to 5 volts, and have a USB connection. So maybe I could have a light zapper I could use to charge my cell phone off of or something. That'd be kind of cool. And then I also thought, you know, these are 2 separate boards, but another thing I found I actually had kicking around is a little board. It does both of those things together. So it's got our little mini USB connection for charging. It's got the full-size USB for powering something else, charging a cell phone or whatever. And it's all together just on one little itty-bitty circuit board. Certainly I can fit this into the handle of the light zapper right here. But the only other thing I was thinking about is how far these connections stick out. And I did notice, for example, that on this one right here, you can see how the USB connection itself sticks out further than the circuit board. So this might be the way to go, just because it would be easier to put into the handle of the gun, have it stick out a little bit. So I think what I'm going to do now is just get my parts together and temporarily wire them up. Just use some good old jumpers and get the parts in about where I think they should go and test them all out. And then as long as it works, I can start cutting out some of the parts on here. Maybe use a little hot glue to put some other components in place. Maybe use a Dremel to do a little cutout down here for a USB connection. And since I do not need the sensor here anymore, I'm just gonna take that right off. Okay, so I spent a few minutes here just trying out some components and where they would go. Here's a little board that would be a 5 volt USB out, and this is one that would be a USB charging circuit for the battery. But over here I have this other board that does both those things together, and it did fit really nice right here. Of course it doesn't when I got everything all jerry-rigged up, but I've got that charging circuit board connected with some wall power here, 5-volt USB. So it's charging up my battery right now, and if we look, you can see a little flashing LED over here indicating that it's charging. And we're also passing power through up to the switch and to the laser, which I've got just laying here. So if I pull the trigger, you can see that the laser turns on. And if I pull it all the way, it just comes on for a moment like that. Now what I'd like to do is fit the battery right here, but I can't right now because there's the little parts that held the sensor board here before. There's a screw comes through right here. There's a couple other little pieces of plastic right through there, just above part of the trigger. So I can't put it in right now. But what I could do is use my calipers here to get a good guess. And if you didn't know it, this is an 18650 battery, which is actually the dimensions. If you measure it, and of course this has a wrap and some other things, so this is a little bigger than 18 millimeter diameter, and it's going to be about 6.5 centimeters long. So if we pull this out, well, we'll call that 69 with the wrapper on there. But now if I measure this, 69 millimeters looks like that's going to exactly fit that way. But if we go back down to the 19 millimeters, yep, just exactly. The tricky one though is going to be depth. So if I take my put that in half, let's go down to 10 millimeters, and we'll see if this sticks halfway down just by using a straight edge across here and lining that up, and that's really close. So I think this is either going to fit perfectly in here, or it's going to exactly not fit. Well, that cut out real easy. A little tighter back in here though. I'm just using these standard little Dremel cutoff discs. It's probably a little big for getting in back here. I'll have to use some other tool. Now, of course, on the other half of the gun, I got these other parts I gotta cut out here too. Yes! Cool. Yeah, it fits. It's like so snug though. So snug. I think I'll have to actually put it together and test, but I think we're good. And now I want to get this part down here in the bottom of the handle. So as much as I would love to use the hole that the cord originally went through, my little charging circuit right here just fits so gosh darn well right there, just like that. Of course, keeping it vertical. So I think what I'm going to do is mark this. I'm going to take the Dremel and cut away right along here, and then that'll be my charging port on the bottom of the gun. Just going to try to cut that out. Cutting away at the bottom of the gun here. So our board's going to go in like that. And there we have our power in and power out. And I just only have to cut out a little bit out of the other half of the gun. Okay, so just a little more dremeling and I was able to get the USB connection in here. Had to cut a little bit of a slot for the card because it comes out flush. But I was able to snap that shut. USB connector on the bottom. USB charging cable. Pew, pew, pew. So on our USB board, I just ran a pair of wires to my battery negative and battery positive, and I'll solder those on. So there's our USB in and out, and then these wires will go off to the battery. So now with our USB port in place and soldered in, I've got these two wires coming off of it. I've already got some leads that came soldered to the battery. So basically I'm just going to have these wires meet up here. I'm going to connect the red and black wire from the USB port to the red and black wire on the battery, and we only have one set of outputs here. So I'm also just going to put the laser in parallel with that, except we're going to have the power wire, the red positive wire, going through the switch and then up to the laser. So I'm going to twist these together, solder them. I might not film all that just because you're pretty much going to see nothing but my hands on that one. And our short red wire here, we're going to connect to the micro switch. And now on the other connection of the switch, we're going to add a longer red wire that's going to go out to the laser. Not great looking soldering, but it's a solid connection at least. So now I'm just trying to put this all back together, make sure everything reaches. Okay, I got all the wires stuffed in here, kind of coming around this way, going to the switch, the battery, out to the laser. So let's put the cover back on. Cover the switch, make sure the micro switch is down where it's supposed to be. I'm also plugging in both USB cords just to make sure that they have clearance and that this is in fact in the right spot. And now, please fit, please fit. Handle fits. And since I got the USB circuit going here, I can test the output. Just plug in my phone here. And that starts charging, so this will be a power bank as well. So I'm planning on putting the laser inside some sort of a little insert that keeps it held perfectly straight so that the laser beam and the sight line up with each other. But for right now, I can just wire it up to test it. So I think what I'm going to do now is glue the USB port in place and put the whole thing back together, making sure this is lined up. Now the laser at this point is still loose, but it's approximately where I want it to be, so I'm okay with that. Now I can shoot laser beams and charge my phone. Now another cool thing about this project is that there's an LED indicator on the charging circuit. So when the gun's plugged in to charge, this LED flashes and it glows right through the handle so we can still see it. Likewise, if I'm using the output, for example, to charge my phone, the light is on solid, glowing right through the handle. So pretty cool that that LED still works as intended. I hope you like these videos. Please like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends, hit that little notification bell, and we'll see you next time.